This is the After Party, live with Kim McAllister. Pick a couch, grab a drink, and settle into the conversation.
It is the After Party live on a Travel Tuesday. Thank you for your patience and thank you for hanging out. I have to figure out the perfect show start time so I can start at the same time every day. I used to say this show starts when the Mark Thompson show ends, but then there's the little after show meeting, and then, there's always something else happening, and then it takes a couple minutes. So anyway, maybe we'll start it at 1:30, but then I don't want to keep you guys waiting too long. I'd like your feedback. If you have any thoughts on the matter, please email me, kim@theafterparty.live, as I kind of make my way through this and try to figure out a better way forward. It's so funny because, I'll move it to 1:30 and then Mark will end up going even longer. So I don't know. But thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who contributes to this show. I didn't mention it yesterday, but I do have some people that I would like to thank, and that includes Wes, who popped in today with a $5 contribution, a recurring payment from Scott R. He set PayPal up every month. He kicks in $10. So thank you to Scott. Wes also contributed last week, as well as Amy S. and Yvonne B. And thank you to everyone who helps keep this show rolling right along. All right. I see you guys have a lot to talk about there. Let me take my email address down. You guys have been chit-chatting. I hope that your job interview went really well yesterday. I was thinking about you. I think we were all kind of rooting for you. And if it didn't, then it's great experience, because the next one coming your way, you'll just sail right through it, right? Y'all just made it on time, 1:30. Don't tell them. Yeah, we won't tell them what time the show really starts, right? But also, I don't want it to be so long that you guys are waiting too long that you just lose interest and go on and do something else, right? So you shouldn't have to wait forever. I don't know. These are the things I think about. Okay, let's move into some stories since we don't have a lot of time to get to them. But one of the stories I saw, and I'm sorry for the picture, you guys. I know. Nobody wants to look at that thing. That's a tarantula. And the thing about this tarantula, even if you have to look away from the screen, I know I hate close-ups of insects and spiders and bugs and barf. Tarantulas adapt to run even after they lose a limb. This is a Guatemalan tiger rump tarantula. You can see the tiger stripes on his rumpy rump there. And researchers say 6 legs can work just fine for this creature. If they lose a leg or two, not a big deal. They can still make a run for it. So see if you're trying to kill one of them. Not that I advocate killing living creatures, but say you wanted it out of your space and you maybe whacked it with a broom or something. Not that I, again, advocate violence to creatures, but if it lost a leg, it's still running for you. It's still coming at you, okay? So don't think that just because it has a leg or two gone, that it's not still on the move. If one of their 8 legs gets stuck in a crevice, or maybe it molts and it goes wrong, these arachnids will simply cut off the limb just beyond their body joint. When they're young, the limb regrows within a month. If they lose 2 or more limbs, the researchers say they don't learn really how to live and run on 6 legs. Instead, they use a mash of different walking styles to compensate, and they can even move as quickly as they did before they lost their limbs. The new study on these spider legs, published in the journal Experimental Biology, the young tarantulas will detach their limbs, and in this study, the researchers caught it all on tape. Fascinating. I do have video for you that I can play of them running and adapting with 6 legs. You want to see it? In the name of science? There's someone out there going, no, don't make me watch the spider video, Kim. Just don't. I know, I feel you. Here it is. Oh, you can see it's missing legs there, and it's still on the move. Mhm. Yeah. It doesn't look like it's having any trouble creepy crawling along. Mm. So, there you go. That's the way it is. Let's move on to this guy. A little bit more palatable to look at. Oh, it's a birthday cake for the world's oldest lemur. This lemur now has a Guinness World Record under its belt. It's at a Scottish zoo, and this ring-tailed lemur is now officially the oldest in the world at age 39. This lemur lives at the Five Sisters Zoo in West Lothian, Scotland, and its name is Stumpy because it has kind of a short, weird little tail. It was born in June of 1986 in Surrey, England, and has lived at this zoo in Scotland since 2005. Pretty big event, though. They had a big cake for Stumpy and a big party. He's got some sons, got a little birthday cake made from a special primate pellet. And Stumpy has fathered 11 lemurs and has 25 grandchildren and 6 great grandchildren and 1 great great granddaughter. Usually, lemurs in captivity live 20 to 25 years. But Stumpy's on year 39, and the zoo people say that while he has some arthritis, he's been blessed with good health, needs a little extra care, takes some daily medications for his arthritis, and they have to trim his hair more often, but he goes through it voluntarily, and he's a good lemur, and he's now the oldest lemur in the world that we know of in captivity. This is a cute picture, although not an uncommon story, which is shocking that I would say an escaped wallaby in America is not an uncommon story, but we've seen so many lately. Escaped kangaroos, escaped wallabies. This one at least came from a zoo and not a person's yard. A New York zoo is hoping the public can help locate this wallaby that escaped from Grace and Glory Animals. It's an animal education zoo in New York. The wallaby's name is Mac, and just before 6 p.m. Sunday evening, Mac made its way out of this enclosure. They think that, and Mac is a girl, they think Mac stayed close but is hiding out. So they're using thermal imaging drones to search for this creature, but they haven't been able to pinpoint her location, even though there have been sightings around the zoo area. They say Mac isn't dangerous, but she is a little skittish. And if you approach her, she'll flee. So if you spot her from a safe distance, contact the zoo to report the location. She doesn't have a fear of cars, so they're worried she could hop into the roadway. They're asking people to be a little careful there. So hopefully Mac gets back where she needs to be. It's a story that is fascinating. Check out the markings on this. This is a rune, and it was found in the Canadian wilderness, and archaeologists are thinking, what is happening? Why was this carved here? Why is this text? They're still trying to figure it out. The symbols that you see here can be traced back to Futhark. Futhark? Futhark? Futhark. It is the oldest known runic alphabet. And why it was found in the Canadian wilderness is the big question here. After years of research, analysis, historical corroboration, this team who's been looking into this say that this rune was found in a forest about 465 miles northwest of Ottawa. It features a hand-etched rendition full of the full Lord's Prayer, but they say it's not inscribed in French or English. It is more than 250 symbols of the oldest known runic alphabet. and they found it by chance. It was exposed after a tree fell near the town of Wawa. 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 Wawa? Not far from Lake Superior. And when they looked closer, they found someone had etched 255 runes into a 4 by 5 foot section of slab. They also added a detailed illustration of a boat, an additional 16 runic signs, and 14 X markings. The photos ended up with the Ontario Centre for Archaeological Education. And the director there said it's one of the least expected discoveries of his career, that it's absolutely fascinating. So they do say that Vikings did explore parts of present day Canada thousands of years ago, but he doesn't think that they're the ones responsible for this message. And they say they didn't want to release anything publicly until they'd done as much analysis on this as they could. So they went and they looked and they studied and they researched and they determined that this message was written with Futhark alphabetic runes, first developed and used by Germanic peoples between the 2nd and 8th centuries CE. Eventually, Futhark evolved to a simplified version adopted by Scandinavians. And then the Anglo-Saxons and others expanded it into their own variants. How to read it, the knowledge of this, died out by the High Middle Ages, about 1000 to 1300 CE. And then in 1865, a scholar from Norway deciphered it. So they think it must have been a Swede. They think. But were there any Swedes in Canada at that time? In the 17th century, there were some historical documents that confirm Hudson's Bay Company stationed Swedish workers at trading posts across Canada in the 1800s. And that the runic Lord's Prayer was republished during the 19th century. So they took these things together and they think that maybe a Hudson's Bay Company employee or employees are responsible for this project. That's all they can think of. They say it's a little disappointing that this artifact is likely only a couple centuries old. And why did they put it there in that forest in Canada? Was it a place for religious gatherings, or was it just one person who, had a connection to that forest? And what's the story? They don't know. They don't even know if it was carved in Canada or somewhere else and brought here. There are no answers, they say, but it's mysteries that always draw people in. Pretty cool. Some random find under a tree in Canada. I don't think they ever meant for this to be found. Speaking of old things, old bones, this is a Viking story. This Viking lady was buried with a small dog at her feet more than 1,000 years ago. Shows you how long we've been loving our pets and creatures, right? Archaeologists unearthed this burial site during excavations in Norway, and they say its discovery really gives us some unique insight into our connection and the bonds between humans and animals. What a pretty place to be buried. Look at that. I mean, not that she's looking out at the vista, but hey, the 1,000-year-old grave of an elite Viking woman buried with a small dog at her feet that had been placed there with real care was uncovered recently in Norway. Archaeologists with the Arctic University Museum of Norway, who helped excavate this site, say there are stories of prominent people doing everything in their power when their dog became ill. So even back then, people had really close ties with their animals. This burial site was discovered by people with metal detectors. They're just out on this field in Norway, this island called Senja, an island above the Arctic Circle in northern Norway. So after they dug a small hole, they discovered two bronze oval shaped brooches and several rib bones buried about 8 inches below the surface. So when they realized that they had stumbled on something, they called the authorities, and then archaeologists last month started excavating and securing this site. It's on a low beach embankment, protected only by a thin layer of topsoil. Isn't that amazing? You would imagine that people have been walking over this for hundreds of years, not realizing that it was a Viking burial ground right beneath their feet. The researchers unearthed the remains of a human and a canine buried in an 18-foot long boat around 900 to 950 CE. They also say that they think, based on the valuable grave goods, that this was a woman with significant local or regional status. Not at the top of the social ladder, but clearly an important figure. She was buried with her knees bent up against one side of the boat and her arms gathered in front of her pelvis. The boat is not well preserved, but the collapsed woodwork is still visible. There's a thin, dark strip. They think it was a sewn boat, which is a type of boat that they would have made by stitching planks together with natural fibers rather than using iron nails. She was buried with a ring-shaped pendant attached to her ear or to a headpiece. They found two beads made of either amber or bone, a whetstone made of slate, and an iron sickle. The oval brooches found with her body were decorated with silver thread. They also found artifacts they think may have been used for textile production. An elongated tool made from a whalebone they think was a weaving sword, and also what looks to be a spindle whorl. And they recovered fragments of her garments, which may, they say, offer some insight into the funerary practices of the time. So once they've finished the excavation here, they're going to take the grave's contents to a lab for documentation and for testing, and they hope to learn more about her, the kind of work she did. Did she have good nutrition, poor nutrition? Did she live in different places in her childhood and her adulthood? There was another brooch found a few feet away, so now they think there might be even more people buried here. They're going to go back and do some more excavating. Maybe we'll go back to this site in the future and see what else they find. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Don't answer the door. There's a gator at the motel. You kind of see it back here and circled in red. This is nothing to see here. Move along. It's all right. This is in Alexandria, Virginia, a 6-foot long alligator lurking right outside of a motel room. The police were called out. That had to be fun. Witnesses reported seeing an alligator lurking outside of a guest's room. Don't open the door at the Budget Host Travelers Motel in Alexandria. The police arrived. They say, yeah, there's a 6-foot gator outside the motel room. They had to call out the animal people, the animal protection police, and they helped. They think the gator escaped from its owner while it was being transported from New York to a zoo in North Carolina. In Virginia, you cannot possess an alligator or an exotic animal similar to that. So when the reptile was recaptured, police escorted the animal and its owner out of Fairfax County. You cannot be here with that gator. Nope. Don't stop for the night here. Luckily, nobody hurt. Everybody okay. It is time for the lotto of the day. And in this case, boy, it was a close call. This guy almost didn't get his money, but he was cleaning out his car and he found a Powerball ticket that was worth 50 grand. It happened in Maryland. This lottery player said he was cleaning out his car when he found a forgotten Powerball ticket. He's from Philadelphia. He said he frequently travels for work as an engineer, and he bought this ticket in Maryland, in Baltimore County, on June 4th. And he was cleaning out his car more than a week later when he rediscovered this forgotten ticket and figured out it was a $50,000 winner chicken dinner. He said, I was ecstatic when I realized I won, and I hope this is the first of many wins. No, it isn't. It's the only thing you'll ever win in your life. Be happy with it. The winner said his money will go toward paying bills and boosting his savings. So there you have it. I have a story for you about I know we did a story about the sun yesterday, but this one's kind of cool. And this is for, and I don't know if I'm saying the name right, Ranthalling or Ranthalling, who always comes in later and comments and has the most interesting comments and things to say. So, Ranthalling, I saw your comment that said you really like the stories about the sun. So, check out this story. European satellites succeeded in creating an artificial solar eclipse. The uh, the agency used a pair of satellites on Monday. They showed the first images of the sun's outer atmosphere, the solar corona, to help understanding the sun and its atmosphere. Proba 3 is the space agency. The pair of spacecrafts used the coronagraph and the occulter, and they flew 492 feet apart for several hours without any control from the ground to create this artificial total solar eclipse orbit. Does that make sense? Artificial total solar eclipses orbit. The two satellites use an optical instrument to take photos of the sun's corona. They say the goal for their mission is to observe the sun's corona, which they say is important for understanding solar wind and coronal mass injections. Many of the technologies which allowed Proba 3 to get this precise formation flying were developed through a program that is very similar in mission. They say it's exciting to see the stunning images validate our technologies in what is now the world's first precision formation flying mission. So that's pretty cool. The images are spectacular. The artificial eclipse images comparable with those taken during a natural eclipse. The difference is we can create our eclipse once every 19.6-hour orbit, while total solar eclipses only occur naturally around once, very rarely twice a year. Even more, natural total eclipses only last a few minutes, while the Proba 3 can hold its artificial eclipse for up to 6 hours. The Proba 3 mission is led by the European Space Agency. It's managed by Spain's CENER, SENER, and they have more than 29 companies from 14 countries involved in doing this. So that's pretty cool. We hear a lot about, speaking of things going up in probes and space and things, the Starlink constantly sending up satellites. Well, Amazon just sent up their second batch of Project Kuiper satellites. The liftoff was planned for Monday. They have a dozen or more new satellites joining their Project Kuiper mission. That it had to be delayed because of engineering issues. But their second attempt to launch 27 additional satellites into low Earth orbit had to be delayed because of an engineering observation and an elevated purge temperature within the booster engine. So they're looking at their hardware and trying to figure out a new launch date. Amazon getting in that game as well. All right, it is time for Travel Tuesday, and I got this sent to me. Thank you, Teacher Lori, who sends me the best state parks in the West to visit this summer. And I'm pretty excited to share this with you. This she found on the AAA website, as a matter of fact. And the pictures are just glorious. So I wanted to share them with you. Here's the one they have prominently displayed. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous or what? I think I can make it bigger. Wow. That is so pretty. Yep. If you're looking for something to do this summer, National parks, although they have a lack of staff and things are supposed to be getting rough, it's only going to get rougher. So maybe now's the time to go out and see things while you still can. Mm. The canyons glowing fiery red as a summer sunset. So beautiful. There are so many things to see. Canyonlands National Park, Dead Horse Point State Park in Utah. We've checked these things out before, but this is a top of the list on where to go. In Utah, you can see the Colorado River 2,000 feet below. They say this is a view that should rank high on your life list. The uh, the hiking in Dead Horse is gentle. They say there's a trail leading to view-filled walks and a desert view overlook trail, an East Rim trail. So there's a lot of things to get out here and see. The sunsets are gorgeous. Dead Horse is far enough from city limits to be designated an international dark sky space, and rangers regularly host nighttime stargazing sessions. So fun. How about this one? An alternative to Yosemite National Park, what about Plumas Eureka State Park? The picture's super pretty. Plumas Eureka. That's pretty nice. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see the river river runs through it. Yeah, gorgeous. That's a pretty good alternative. So this again is Plumas Eureka State Park here in California, northwest of Lake Tahoe. They say it might be the most appealing state park in California and also the least well known. It's on the eastern slopes of the Sierra Nevada. It's got craggy mountains, including Eureka Peak, serene lakes, and the history of the gold rush thick in this area. They say if you're a hiker, but you're not looking for a marathon, this is a great place. There's some gentle hikes like the Medora Lake Trail, the Eureka Lake Trail, and there's beautiful views. There's historic buildings from the gold rush era. There's a miner's bunkhouse, a museum, a visitor center, the Mohawk stamp mill, a blacksmith shop, all kinds of things. And then in Gray Eagle nearby, there's some great restaurants, steaks, Italian food. So there's a lot in this area. Here's another alternative. If you maybe have been to Sequoia and Kings National Parks, what about Calaveras Big Trees State Park in California? That's pretty nice. Go check this out this summer. Walk right through this big old chopped up tree. Yeah, that looks fun. Look at that trail. That's a nice summer pastime. The big tree in Calaveras County, Calaveras Big Trees State Park. It is about 6,500 acres, one of the best places in the state to see these giant sequoias that John Muir called the greatest of living things. You can take a stroll through the groves, and it's a spiritual experience. There are a lot of trails here. The North Grove Trail takes you among the best known big trees, including one of the largest called the Empire State Tree. There's also tree stumps, as you can see here, like the people are walking through, that remind us of the times when these trees were felled for timber. And then there's the South Grove Trail where you can see even more of these trees. Beautiful. The town of Murphy's, not so far away, where they have wine tasting and some fun and some good times. Here's another one. This one is Wallowa Lake, Oregon, and the picture is truly breathtaking. Check this out. Not such a far drive if you're in California. If you're already in Oregon, even closer for you. This is an alternative to Crater Lake National Park. It's Wallowa Lake State Park in Oregon, filled with gorgeous lakes. A cool, clear glacial lake is in front here of the Wallowa Mountains. This is in eastern Oregon. There's a lot to do here with water recreation. You can go kayaking or boating, and it's very close to a cute town in Oregon where you can go hang out and go to the brew house, have some pizza, all of these things. Yeah. There's beaches, swimming, a campground, the Wallowa Lake Marina, where you can rent kayaks, canoes, paddleboards, and motorboats. You can ride the Wallowa Lake Tramway to the top of Mount Howard and explore the town of nearby Joseph. That's where the brewery is. The alternative to the Grand Canyon, Red Rock State Park in Arizona. I almost don't want to leave this picture. It's so pretty, but so is this, right? Wow. Pretty beautiful. This is 2 hours south of the Grand Canyon in the Red Rock country of Sedona. They have this destination, Red Rock State Park. It's a gorgeous setting, brilliant red-orange cliffs, Oak Creek winds below, lots of trails to check out all the impressive views. And of course, Sedona is amazing. Lots of Mexican food. You can go to a fancy restaurant or keep it more casual. They have great breakfasts there as well. Here's an alternative to Bryce Canyon National Park. It's called Kodachrome Basin State Park, and it is in Utah. Look at that. Those are some cool rock formations right there. Wow, huge. It's amazing. It's a creamsicle orange and white valley, they say, according to AAA, with 70 stone spires. The trails here provide a really good introduction to all the plants and animals and the geology. Angel's Palace Trail is supposed to be the best place to take pictures. Gives you really good views of the park. You can see Bryce Canyon in the distance. The park is just off Utah Highway 12. They say it's one of the most spectacular roads in the world. So it'll be fun not only when you get there, but to just drive there. Here's another alternative to Yellowstone National Park. This one is Harriman State Park in Idaho. Great for the fisher people among us. That's kind of cool. It's was for generations a cattle ranch and a retreat for New York's wealthy, the Harriman and Guggenheim families. But the ranch was donated to the state of Idaho in 1977. Now you can tour some of the historic buildings on the ranch. You can hit the trails, and you can go fishing in Henry's Fork of the Snake River, which flows through Harriman. It is considered among the best fly fishing spots in the country. So that sounds pretty fun. Yeah. How peaceful. Unless you're the fish, right? Here's an alternative to Olympic National Park. It is Cape Disappointment State Park in Washington. And don't let the name fool you. I know. Cape Disappointment. But still, it's a pretty cool place. It's where the Columbia River meets the Pacific Ocean. The name given by an 18th century British sea captain who was upset because he got lost. It's not disappointing unless you're him. But the name stuck, and here you'll find an amazing beach, lighthouses, the Lewis and Clark Interpretive Center. They have two historic lighthouses, the 1898 vintage North Head Lighthouse, which is open to visitors in the summer, and the Cape Disappointment Lighthouse, which can only be admired from outside. You can't go inside of that, but it's beautiful. And there's a Waikiki beach here. It's not the Waikiki of Hawaii. The water's super cold, but the views of the sunset are amazing. And then there's a nearby town of Ilwaco, where they've got tacos and pubs and all kinds of fun stuff. So again, that's Cape Disappointment State Park in the state of Washington. And there we have it. Thank you to Teacher Lori for sending the list of some of the best state parks to visit in the West this summer, with family-friendly activities and beautiful views and sparkling lakes and gorgeous lighthouses and amazing trees. I feel like we've taken a little jaunt outside today, and it feels mighty fine. Okay, I'm going to the chat. See what you guys have to say. Is that Mr. Miyagi's tree? It kind of looks like it, right? A very special one by itself. Ooh, Yvonne's been there. Very cool. Yvonne says, good idea. Parks in Kauai, so many plus beaches. Yeah, beautiful. I've seen people camping in Maui, but I've always been glad that I was going to a real bed. Maybe we should go check out campsites in Hawaii for one of these. Yvonne says, I got moccasins in Sedona when I was little, and I love them. Isn't that funny, the memories that we have? Sedona is an energy vortex location. What, where you replenish your energy? Is that what you mean? Can you canoodle? Yeah, canoodle on a lake, right? I don't know. Big Basin had some big redwoods before the fires. I think they still do. And I know that it reopened a couple of years ago. There's still some rebuilding going on there. Big Basin is in the Santa Cruz County area, a little past, in between Scotts Valley and Santa Cruz, and it is super pretty. And I love the fact that you can take the railroad from the forest to the beach boardwalk. So Big Basin. They used to have glam camping there, where you could go, and they have the tents set up. So it's like a foundation with canvas on top and little cots in there already set up for you, and you bring your own bedding and you bring your own camping gear, but you kind of have a little tent already there for you. So yeah, that's kind of fun. Heather on the interview. It was quick. Think it went well. Okay, well, fingers crossed. And you know what? Even if it doesn't, it's the first one. They say, what is it usually? It takes 3 or 4. Maybe I'll have to look it up. I'll send it to you, Heather. But there's a certain number it usually takes as an average of, I think, 4 interviews before you really start getting somewhere. So consider it getting your feet back in. If nothing comes of it, it's the jumping back in point, right? But fingers crossed, just in case. All right. Yeah, they used to have cabins too, says Gordon. Really cool. 97% of the Big Basin was burned, but the redwoods live. Fire is, I don't want to say good for redwoods, but isn't that how they sometimes re-energize, reproduce? Yeah. Henry Cowell was not affected by fires, just a very small part. That's good. Yeah, we're off to the races. Woohoo! Well, we're all thinking about it. All right, everybody, that is the show for today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to Teacher Lori for sending me this great Travel Tuesday story. If you have any tips, if you would like to send your recommendations, then please do. You can find me at kim@theafterparty.live, kim@theafterparty.live. And send me the information you'd like to see on the show. As a matter of fact, tomorrow we've got Waterfall Wednesday coming up. So it's going to be some peaceful waterfalls and some interesting stories. And I do hope you'll join me for that. Tomorrow on the Mark Thompson Show, 11 a.m., John Rothman will be on the show. And we've got a lot of good things coming up. So I'll see you right back here on the YouTube. But until then, make it a really great day. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.
The After Party Live would like to thank the following contributors and viewers like you.